cricket team, Mr. Manish Agarwal. He is director and promoter of a company called MSP Steel and Power Limited. They have pellet plants at Raigarh, which is in a place called Chhattisgarh. There's a 1.2 million ton capacity and a sponge iron plant of 0.4 million ton capacity. Mr. Manish Agarwal is one of our most dynamic members of the Pellet Association. In fact, he is the vice president and our governing council member. So my request is that let him come over. He's an expert in iron ore and particularly in the financial aspects of iron ore pricing, availability. He guides us almost on a weekly basis on how does PMAI react to the crisis of iron ore which is happening, which of course our American friends may not know, but most of our Indian friends know. Mr. Manish Agarwal is a post-graduation in MBA from the International Management Institute, IMI, and he's looking after the family business. And we request Mr. Manish Agarwal to say about his. We have about 207 participants logged in. Thank you. And over to you, Mr. Manish Agarwal.
Thank you, Mr. Bhatnagar, for the kind introduction. So I'll start with an iron ore overview. And we just wanted to keep it really short and come to most of the solutions that are there with us rather than get into a lot of data. So what we will do is we will go through the production, see the shortage and see the current demand supply scenario. So just to move ahead, the production of ore in India is approximately 245 million tons in the year 2019-20, out of which lump stands at around 76 and fines at 169 million tons. Less than 58 Fe production of fines, which we call low grade, is around 23 million tons. And above 58, which the industry generally uses, is around 146 million ton. It is also pertinent to mention that the export quantum of iron ore is approximately 36 million ton. So we have these numbers in front of us just for perspective, because as we go ahead, we need to understand them and see where we actually stand today. The stocks of iron ore are the next biggest thing that we need to look at. All these data are sourced from the Indian Bureau of Mines and have been re-verified. So the stocks of iron ore fines, if we see, have remained stable over the last years at approximately 130 million tons, plus minus 5 to 10 million tons that takes place over every year. But that's the rough stock that we have maintained. Now, stock less than 58 Fe is at 82 million tons, which is almost 4 years of our production rate. And stock of above 58 is only 55 million tons, which is 4 months of production rate. From this, you can see that most of these stocks which are there are actually quite insulated stocks. These are not stocks which we can say that fine, we have 130 million tons, there is no shortage of ore, the industry does not need it, but that is not true. We have seen this because even during times of acute shortage, these iron ore stocks levels have not gone down. And a lot of stocks have been insulated, like sale Gua material, which cannot be dispatched right now, low grade lying in dumps at various mines, slurries with NMDC, low grade with NMDC. Even with sale Chhattisgarh, Dalli, Rajara, there exists a lot of low grade stocks which are actually not coming into the market. So now the biggest question is our production enough? Before that, let's see what the consumption is. So for steel, we require around 2 million tons of high grade wet ore per ton of steel. Theoretically, we do require 1.65 to 1.7 tons for making 1 ton of what you call iron, but you have a lot of refining that goes towards making steel. And in India, because all transactions and all weights are as per wet metric ton, you actually need to consider that instead of 1.65 ratio. So for 100 million tons of steel that we are already producing, we need around 200 million tons of high grade ore. However, the production is concentrated from Orissa now in the hands of captive users, which have been bid at very high premiums. In fact, as per IBM, the top 5 mines producing in India were Sirajuddin, Rungta mines, Noah Mandi, Joda East, and NMDC, out of which two top mines, which is Balda Block and Jajang, are no longer in the merchant market for supplies right now because of these higher premiums, as well as captive usage. Now, the projected capacity of steel in the next 5 years is approximately 175 million tons. This takes into consideration the projects which have been announced and work started upon, especially by large captive producers, and a normal growth that has been seen by the secondary steel industry over the past decade. Now, this will require 350 million tons of ore needed. And the thing is, can we produce this much ore in the next 5 years? Moving ahead, is our production enough? Frankly speaking, no. The prices of iron ore have increased by 280% in the last 3 years. And you have to appreciate that these were times of huge scarcity also. So even when 2019-20, all these mines were getting auctioned and there was a lot of scarcity, the prices were still controlled and had not increased so much. So from, if you see 55 to below 58, in 2018, this All India index of IBM was at 1324, which is now at 3738. This is much more than even high grade ore of 60 to 62 in the year 2020. So across all these segments, we find that almost 280% has been increased. Now, definitely this increase would not have been possible had there been enough supply, but that supply is just too acute. And to just bring about to you the numbers of the kind of acute shortage we face, let's move to the current scenario of Orissa. Now, Orissa produces roughly 75% of the mining capacity in India, and it is the prime source of merchant ore also. By merchant ore, we mean the secondary players and the merchant and the integrated steel players which do not use iron, which buy iron ore in addition to using it from the captive sources. And those mines which are going for supplying to these captive, non-captive sources is what we have classified as merchant demand. Now, the current merchant demand is 4.57 million tons per month from the iron ore produced in Orissa in terms of logistics as well as in terms of the location of the factories. However, the current merchant supply is only 3.72. So we are already staring at a shortfall of almost 1.2 million tons per month, which is the reason why there has been drastic increases over the last 1 year of iron ore prices. The projected merchant demand in the next 12 months because of huge capacity additions is rising to almost 7.4 million tons per month. This includes large capacities being set up by Rungta mines as well as expansion by Arcelor and the secondary sector as such, which is expanding based on the projection of India that it requires 300 million tons of steel. However, the shortage is just too much for them to match up in the short term. This shortfall is not projected, it is acute, real, and most of all, it is immediate. So what we really need to see is how we can look at increasing the supply of iron ore so that industry flourishes and the economy also flourishes, rather than facing a bottleneck which creates discord amongst various aspects of the industry. So the suggestions to improve supply are, first is that immediate auction as well as re-auction of mines which were working but have not yet started dispatching. For example, Sirajuddin, this needs to be re-auctioned on an urgent basis. A lot of mines which have been insulated have not come up for auction. For example, there's some mines under litigation, but mines like Mesco, Malarai, SL Mining, which were all producing, have not come up. We also need an immediate dispatch from insulated low-grade stocks of SAIL, GUA, NMDC, which have still not seen the light of the day. There have been talks from the ministry as well as everyone to dispose of these stocks for the industry, but the supplies have not come in from the sellers. The third is we also propose export duty on low-grade ore, which is below 58, which is currently duty-free, to encourage beneficiation within the country, to make usable ore available for domestic consumption. So ores below 58 have to be typically beneficiated because they do not facilitate blending also with higher grade ores. And hence it is now a policy imperative, which was not there earlier, to ensure material is available for the Indian industry. auction of virgin mines at a much higher pace to ensure production in the next 5 years, because that is the kind of timeline that it takes for any mines, new mines in India to start, with forest clearances as well as other environmental clearances. And most importantly, ensuring in a legal framework that existing mines achieve their environmental clearance capacities in terms of dispatch and not only in terms of production. There's a huge disconnect between what these mines can produce and what they are producing. A lot of times, not only based on issues related to logistics, but also on basis of issues related to controlling the demand and supply scenario to increase the prices. So this needs to be taken up by the government, that all the environmental clearances already granted, each of the mines which actually mine the natural resources of the country are able to maximize the production so that it's available for the industry. I would like to stop at that. Thank you very much. A copy of this presentation will be there with PMI, and all the sources of data are from the IBM mineral yearbooks. Thank you so much.